Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. When I first started dating my now fiance, I thought he was extremely boring. Hi everyone, welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, and this is a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. If you've been following me, if you listen to this podcast, then you know that my whole goal is to help you build better relationships, starting with the relationship that you have with yourself. In this episode, I want to talk to you all about why you might feel bored when you are in a good and healthy relationship. This is a topic that I really had to figure out in my own life. It's also one that I talk to a lot of my clients about. It's one that me and my girlfriends talk about all the time, where for some reason, when you find a partner who makes you feel safe and secure, that can also feel boring. So why is that? And how do you work through that? Let's talk about it. If you've ever found yourself saying something like, well, he's sweet, he's so nice, but he's just so boring, or there's not a lot of a spark, I just don't feel much of a connection, much chemistry. If you've ever said that, you are not alone, and I can explain to you now why you may be feeling that way. I wish I had known back then when I was dating the boring guys what I know now. Before I explain why you're feeling bored in your healthy relationship, I want to first invite you all to join my Wildly Capable for Women's retreat happening this Labor Day weekend in Dripping Springs, Texas. The retreat is going to be 3 nights, 4 days. I specifically planned it over a holiday, Labor Day, so that way you can travel more easily. I have women coming from California, New York, all around the nation, and I currently have 4 spots left in the retreat. I'm only opening up the retreat to 10 spots, so snag one of the spots that are still left to join us for the transformative weekend. We're going to go horseback riding, we're going to do yoga, we're going to do contrast therapy, we're going to do an art therapy, sound bath. I'm having somebody come in to talk about the seasons and how women's bodies sync to seasons and how we can use that to our advantage. And I'm going to be coaching you all on how to build better relationships, and how to have better relationships in every aspect of your life, from romantic to family relationships, focusing on the relationship that you have within. I believe that every other relationship in our life stems from our own inner relationship, from the way we feel about ourselves, from the way we do or do not love ourselves. So I'm going to be talking to you all about how to learn to love who you are, to step into the woman you were created to be the wild woman that you were always destined to be. I'm going to be doing coaching intensives, workshops, talks, one-on-one coaching sessions throughout the weekend to help you get there. And big news, by listening to this podcast, you get a special 10% off of the retreat simply by tuning in. I want to show you all how appreciative I am of you listening in week after week. It means the world to me. So as a little thank you, if you're listening, you get 10% off of the retreat. To do so, head to my website, coachkatederocher.com, use code RETREAT at checkout, and I will see you this Labor Day weekend in Dripping Springs, Texas for the Wildly Capable Women's Retreat. It's going to be life-changing. It's going to help you step into the person that you were created to be. It's going to help you build better relationships, build the relationship you've always been dreaming of. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and I would love for you to be there. So head to my website, and I will see you this Labor Day weekend. Okay, back to the episode. Let me explain to you why you may be feeling bored or restless or just not very excited in your new relationship, in a healthy relationship, when in the past, in other relationships that weren't so healthy, you felt this insane chemistry and draw and passion for one another. Why on earth is that? If you have been in a relationship where you were mistreated or maybe you were even abused, just where there were any toxic elements, oftentimes after that, healthy can feel boring. I know in my own relationship, when Bobby and I, who is now my fiance, when we first started dating, I really, really struggled with this. I saw so many incredible traits in him. All of the traits that I had been looking for, praying for, dreaming of, Bobby possessed those. He made me feel safe. He showed up. He kept showing up. He made me feel cared for. He was communicative. He was consistent. He was clear in the way that he felt about me. Everything that I had lacked in a lot of my past relationships, Bobby gave to me. And yet, for some reason, even though I was suddenly getting all of these things that I knew were great for me and healthy for me, I was left feeling kind of unfulfilled and kind of bored. And I couldn't make sense of why. I was so frustrated. I was like, what is wrong with my brain? Why do I want to go back to something that's toxic? I know intellectually that that's not good. And yet, for some reason, it's what I'm drawn to. So, why is that? When you go from the highs and the lows that happen in an unhealthy relationship, your brain quite literally forms an addiction to that relationship and to that person. You have different spikes of different hormones, different chemicals that go on in your brain. When somebody's giving you a high and they're really treating you well and things are really great in the relationship, your dopamine spikes. You feel great. You feel on top of the world. And then when they withdraw or they are mean to you or they do something to hurt you or they exit the relationship or they just push you away, whatever it is, your body experiences a lot of cortisol. It experiences a drop in dopamine and it experiences a rush in of all the negative, more hurtful chemicals. And because you are experiencing those highs and those lows in the relationship and within the chemicals in your brain, it forms an addiction. It is the same thing that happens in a drug or alcohol addiction. When somebody struggles with substance abuse, they get that hit from the drug or from the alcohol and it gives them the high that they're searching for. And then when they don't have that substance is when they hit the low. So they're constantly cycling between highs and lows and highs and lows. And that's what happens to you when you're in an unhealthy relationship, especially if it's a relationship that's on again, off again, or maybe it's a trauma bond relationship. You become addicted. And when you form that addiction, when you lose it, it's really, really hard to break free from it. You keep looking for that high, either with that person or in coming relationships. And when you don't have that high, that low becomes boring. You translate that low as being unfulfilling or not right for you, or there's no chemistry. When in reality, it's just that your body is finally slowing down, finding safety, and not having to cycle between a high and a low over and over again. It is finally regulating. Now, this isn't just a theory that I've made up. Experts have actually come up with a name for what happens to a person after they've been in an abusive relationship who then finds themselves in a safe one. The term for that is called post-traumatic relationship syndrome or relationship PTSD. I was diagnosed with PTSD back in 2017 after getting out of a really, toxic cycle with my old boyfriend. We were on again, we were off again, things were great, things were terrible, it was constant highs and lows. So my therapist that I saw back in 2017 quite literally diagnosed me with PTSD. Back then, the term post-traumatic relationship syndrome wasn't actually a term. It's not even one that you can find in the DSM today, but it is one that researchers and therapists are becoming more familiar with, and they are using it more and more to make sense of somebody who really struggles after being in an abusive relationship. It's also a tool that's becoming more popular to help people like me or you who've been in difficult relationships and are now in healthy ones, but can't seem to maintain that healthy one because we're so used to the toxicity from the past one. Unfortunately, one of the most prominent results of being in an abusive relationship is the survivor's guilt of feeling as though they are not good enough. They are not worthy of a healthy relationship afterward. So when they do enter a relationship with somebody who actually cares for them and is kind to them, they have this kind of like predisposed idea that they don't actually deserve it. And they may not be aware that that's something that they're thinking. It's something that is going on in the background in their subconscious mind, and it's causing them to self-sabotage or to behave in different ways because they're prepared to lose a healthy relationship. So they start to just push it away. When we do not believe we are worthy of something, we accidentally kind of become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we start doing or saying things that push that thing that we think we are undeserving of away from us. We sabotage it ourselves instead of waiting to see the actual outcome of what the relationship could be. When my fiance and I first started dating, I absolutely was pushing him away because I did not think I was deserving of him. There would be times 4, 5, 6 months into our relationship where we would get into an argument and I would turn it into a full-blown fight, kind of to subconsciously test him to see if he would leave. I didn't think I was deserving of a healthy relationship, so I kept pushing it away. I kept creating fights and conflicts and issues. I kept looking for the worst because I was prepared for the worst to happen. So subconsciously, I thought, well, if I cause it to happen, it won't feel as bad as if he leaves on his own. I had this sort of twisted internal way of thinking that I was extremely unaware of, and that I had to break through in order to keep and maintain this relationship. And it's worked because we are now engaged, but it took a lot of work to get there. So not only do we really struggle with maintaining a healthy relationship after being in a toxic one because of those ups and downs that we experience, but we also are often conditioned by our earliest caregivers or by the people that we spent a lot of time with growing up to do this as well. So when you are in a family where all you saw was fighting, where all you saw was one person pursuing and the other person shutting down or running away, or there was just constant conflict and tension in the household, we learn that that is normal. We are conditioned to believe that that is how relationships and love look, that that's how it should go. I was brought up in a household where that was true, where all those things I just said were happening, where there was a lot of fighting, a lot of disagreement, a lot of conflict. And when I started dating myself, once I got old enough to date on my own, if I wasn't in conflict with my boyfriend, I would feel like it was boring or like something was wrong or like he didn't actually care about me. I would actually create fights, stupid little fights over things that I didn't actually care about, because if he reacted to it, if he had a difficult emotion that surrounded me starting the fight, I felt safer. It made me feel like, oh wow, he actually cares about me. Like, oh my gosh, amazing. Because I was so conditioned to believe that that was normal for a relationship. And when it wasn't happening, it felt very unnatural to me. And not only did I think something was wrong because we weren't fighting, but I felt really bored. I was so used to my nervous system being dysregulated that when finally it got to just relax and feel safe, it wasn't used to it. Our brains do this crazy thing where they go for the thing that feels most comfortable for them. And sometimes what feels most comfortable is actually the worst thing for you. So sometimes you keep dating the same type of person who is unhealthy or toxic for you simply because that's what you're familiar with. It's what you're comfortable with. You don't know any differently yet. And when we give our brain something new, something different, something better to start to pay attention to, that becomes our new norm. So that becomes a thing that we are seeking over and over because now that's what we're more comfortable and more familiar with than the old thing. So I coach a lot of my clients on just give your brain the next best thing and keep doing that over and over until you feel you're in a great and healthy place. I see so many people who have these really difficult negative mindsets and self-limiting beliefs. And the reason that they have those, the reason that they are constantly cycling through those negative thoughts is because they've just done it for so long. And when they can learn to replace those negative thoughts with something more positive, they can start to give their brain the next best thing. And when they can start to give their brain the next best thing, something more positive, they can break their old negative ways of thinking and self-limiting beliefs. Keep giving your brain the next best thing because your brain will go for what it's familiar with. It can be very hard to help your brain see that it no longer needs to react in the same ways that it used to because of the unsafe environments or relationships it was in. It can be very hard to tell your brain, hey, you're in a healthy relationship now. You don't need to push somebody away. You are safe. It can be hard to get your brain to see that. But the only way to break through it is to keep going and to keep communicating with your partner where you're at. I luckily did a lot of research and a lot of therapy to help me see that I was pushing Bobby away because I was self-sabotaging, not because he wasn't right for me, but because I didn't believe I was deserving of somebody who was healthy for me. So luckily I was aware of that. And because I was aware of it, I was able to have those conversations with Bobby. And luckily for me, I'm very grateful to say he was also in a healthy place where even though there were things he had to work through with me, he was willing to work through them. And we did. We had tough conversation after tough conversation. There were times where I wasn't sure we were going to make it through, especially in those initial days. We even went through a breakup at one point. But because I was aware and because I was communicating to him, like, hey, I think I'm doing this because I'm so scared you're going to leave, not because I don't want to be with you, but because my brain is used to somebody leaving. Because we were able to have those difficult conversations, we did get through it. So if this sounds like you, I want you to first become aware that likely you are bored in your healthy relationship because you're not used to feeling safe. You are not used to having somebody treat you right. You're not used to somebody communicating with you and being kind to you and actually showing up over and over and over again. That feels sort of gross and scary to you because you're so not used to it. But it is what is healthy for you. It is what is best for you. So if you can just keep sticking with it, eventually you will start to believe it. You will start to feel excited by it. It won't feel so boring. It will feel like what it actually is, which is safe and secure and healthy. So first of all, to get through this, become aware. Second of all, to get through, these feelings of boredom in your healthy relationship, communicate. Talk to your partner. Tell them how you're feeling. Tell them what you think is happening. Just be very open and vulnerable with them. And honestly, if they can't work with you through that, that's okay. That is their own prerogative, but that just means it's not your person. There will be somebody who's willing to be patient with you. While at the same time, you need to be doing your part and you need to be growing and you need to be breaking these patterns. So communicate and do your part. Get a therapist, get a coach, start to work through these things, start to make more sense of why you feel so bored with something that's actually so good. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram. My website is coachkatejerocher.com. My Instagram and TikTok are Coach Kate Jerocher. Reach out to me and we'll set up a coaching call so I can help you understand what's going on and help you not keep self-sabotaging this good thing that you finally have. And honestly, you guys, even if you become aware, even if you understand that you feel bored because you're actually just experiencing something good for one of the first times, being in a healthy relationship, period, and being in a healthy relationship after being in unhealthy ones can be extra challenging. You suddenly have to face yourself. You suddenly have to pay attention to your old patterns and mindsets and demons and difficulties and self-sabotaging behaviors. You have to come face to face with those in a healthy relationship, and you have to change them. You have to heal them in order to keep that healthy relationship. In toxic relationships, you both are not healthy. So if one of you does something wrong or one of you reacts really poorly, chances are the relationship, there will be a big fight, a big blow up, and then you will have sex and make up and get over it. That's what happens in toxic relationships. You don't have to step up. You can just keep being this old version of yourself because both of you in that toxic relationship are accepting less than what you deserve. But when you are in a healthy relationship with a healthy partner, they're not going to tolerate that. They're not going to be okay with you doing something hurtful or freaking out or screaming at them. That's not going to fly. So when you're in a healthy relationship and you do something like that, that is coming from your pre-programming from your past unhealthy relationship, you are forced to grow. You are forced to face yourself. And if you don't, you will lose that relationship and you'll keep losing them until you finally do heal those things, until you do finally look in the mirror. So because of that, sometimes healthy relationships are the hardest relationships. Toxic relationships, it's easy. You don't have to level up. You don't have to grow. You don't have to face yourself. And healthy relationships, you will come smack dab to yourself, face to face, realize what needs to grow and either do it or lose something great. Ultimately, I just want you all to learn the difference between boring and safe. Boring is when there's no connection. There's nothing in common. You guys have nothing to talk about. There's no compatibility. That probably won't work for a relationship. You do want to feel excited by your relationship and by your partner to an extent, at least at first. And safe, on the other hand, there is a lack of drama. There's a lack of uncertainty, a lack of confusion, a lack of miscommunication. There's loyalty. There's consistency. There's clear and concise Communication, that's not boring. That's safe. And if you want your forever person, if you want a lasting relationship, safe needs to be at the top of your list. Safe, secure, consistent, loyal. Those are the traits that will make a relationship last. Respect. If you don't have those, it's not going to work. So I want you to understand the difference between boring, where there's just nothing, there's no connection, and safe, because they get misconstrued, especially when we've been in unhealthy relationships and then we enter a safe one where we feel bored, but in reality, we're just feeling regulated and calm for probably the first time in years. Start to identify the differences and then do the things that I mentioned in this episode to help you work through them. Be honest about it. Talk to your partner. Have some friends who will hold you accountable to not react based on your past. Literally ask them, tell them what's going on and say, hey, I have this pattern from my past where I think everybody's going to hurt me and going to leave. So now that I'm in this healthy situation, I am pushing it away because I don't feel deserving and I don't understand. And it's so much harder to face myself. Have your friends hold you accountable to doing that work. Tell them what's going on and keep reframing what's going on. Instead of seeing it as, oh, I'm so bored, this is just the worst relationship, start to remember and see, no, this is actually healthy. This is good for me. This is everything I've been praying for. I'm just not used to it. But I can become used to it. I can give my brain the next best thing. Keep reframing how you're seeing things in your mind. And last but not least, be gentle on yourself. Know that growth takes time. If it took you 25, 30 years to create the patterns that you have now, it's not going to take you 10 days to undo those things, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace, love yourself, show yourself so much compassion. If you don't, it will be much harder to heal. Love yourself the way that you would your own best friend, and let yourself grow and have the space to grow because of that love and that safety that you're giving to yourself. I hope this answers all of your questions on why you may be feeling so bored in a healthy relationship. I hope it helps you see that boredom and safety are two very different things, and safety is a beautiful thing to chase after. I hope it helps you stop self-sabotaging and start to create and maintain and keep the relationship that you've been dreaming of your whole life. It's just new. I hope that this episode helps you do all of that and more. Please let me know what you think by reaching out to me on social media. My handle is Coach Kate DeRocher. And if you want somebody to be your biggest cheerleader and to hold you accountable, then head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com. Fill out my dating coaching application, and then I'll set up a call where we can meet and see if we'd be a good fit to work together, and I'll help you work through these things. I have gone through these things. I had to learn them the hard way. I had to hire my own coaches, my own therapists to get help with these things. And I want to help you be able to do the same. I want to help you build better relationships, starting with the one that you have with yourself. You are truly so deserving of such a safe and healthy love, but you won't get there unless you work through these things that are holding you back, the patterns, the mindsets, the hurts. So let's tackle them. Let's work through them once and for all, and let's help you see how beautiful a safe and healthy relationship is. Again, reach out to me on social media, head to my website, fill out my coaching application, and remember that by listening to this podcast, you get 10% off of my Wildly Capable for Women retreat. So again, head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com. Use code RETREAT, sign up now, and snag one of the 4 spots left at the retreat. And I will see you this Labor Day weekend in Dripping Springs, Texas. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This episode is so near and dear to my heart because I really had to figure this out on my own, and I hope I can help you figure it out too. Safety is not boring. It is amazing. It is healthy. It will give you the freedom to actually be who you were created to be. So let's break these old patterns. Let's do it together. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for listening in, and I will see you here next week on Wildly Capable with Kate.